Hello everyone, my name is png.jpg, but you can call me PNG for short. Now, as you may or may not know, Baptiste is another one of my personal favorite characters in Overwatch. Bap is a funny character, and has some of the most fluid gameplay for a support, being able to weave damage and healing into the fight with no breaks, save for reloading. Bap was known throughout Overwatch 1 as one of the most powerful supports you could have, but something else Bap is known for is being one of the hardest supports to play. Anyone can pick up and try Bap, he's pretty intuitive like that, but not everyone can play him well. So today, I'll give you a few tips on everyone's favorite Haitian renegade to give you that edge over your enemy Baptistes. If you've found this video, chances are you've probably heard of ML7, who is debatably the best support player in the world, and he has made a few guides on how to play Baptiste over the years. So if you need a guide more advanced than this one, go look at his channel, and you'll probably find a somewhat recently produced Baptiste guide there. But if you're looking for the insight of someone who was once terrible at the game, you've come to the right place. I think I was silver or gold on PS4 in Overwatch 1 when Baptiste was released. Nowadays I'm masters on PC. So I remember what it was like to be bad with Bap, and I'll do my best to give you the knowledge that helped me get better. So now let's get into it. Let me start with Bap's kit, as I always do, so that we've got the same background. The most basic part of Bap's kit, like every other character, is his gun, the biotic launcher. It's relatively simple, with just two firing modes. Your primary fire on Baptiste is a burst shot that fires 3 hit scan bullets with some slight recoil. Hit scan means that your bullets hit their target as soon as the button is pressed, meaning there's no travel time. Each bullet deals a respectable 25 damage, and can headshot, meaning that you can deal up to 150 damage per burst if you land each bullet as a headshot. You also have 45 ammo, leading to a potential maximum damage per magazine of 2,250. Never expect to do anywhere near this much damage in one mag. His fire rate is also quite high at approximately 1.7 bursts per second, or about 5.1 bullets per second. This places his DPS around 125 damage per second, or 109 accounting for the 1.5 second reload animation. Baptiste's weapon does have fall-off, so his DPS at range is rather limited, though the fall-off begins all the way at 25 meters out and finishes at 45 meters out, so you still deal a respectable amount of damage at mid to early long range. Like I mentioned a moment ago, Baptiste's gun has a secondary fire mode as well. This shoots out an arcing grenade that heals allies in its radius by 50 health, and allies directly impacted by 70 health. The explosion radius is 3 meters, and the grenade moves at 60 meters per second. The secondary fire's fire rate is 1.11 grenades per second, leading to a total health per second of 55.55 for indirect hits and 77.77 for constant direct hits. Typically, your practical health per second will fluctuate somewhere in between these values. You have 13 grenades in a magazine, so your total healing per mag ranges from 650 to 910. Luckily, reloading the biotic launcher refills both your grenades and bullets, meaning you don't need to worry about keeping track of each individually, since they have different ammo counts. Next, I'll talk about Baptiste's passive ability, Exo Boots. Those boots Bap has on his character model actually do something for once. They fling him high into the air. Crouching on Baptiste will begin charging the Exo Boots automatically, and after 0.7 seconds, which is a bug, it should actually be 1 full second, you will reach maximum charge. At any point during the charge, you can stand up or press jump. Pressing jump at max charge will send you flying 9.1 meters into the air at roughly 17.44 meters per second. And standing up will hold whatever charge you left off on for 1 second before disappearing. If you crouch again whilst holding charge, it will be reset. Walking off of high ground with charge will hold it until you land on the ground for 1 second or jump again. Next up is Baptiste's primary ability, Regenerative Burst. Regen Burst will heal yourself and all allies in a 10 meter radius for a variable amount of health over 4 seconds. It comes in 2 parts, an initial burst and a slight overtime heal. The burst is normally 40 health, but it doubles to 80 if the target is at critical HP, in other words, lower than 50%. The overtime heal is always 40, and it applies over 4 seconds, obviously working out to 10 HP per second for 4 seconds. This ability has a 15 second cooldown and a 0.32 second cast time. His second ability is the Immortality Field. This is another arcing projectile, with the same arc and speed as the biotic launcher's alternate fire, that, when deployed on the ground, opens up a 6.5 meter wide field that keeps all allies inside of it from falling below 25% of their maximum HP. It has a 23 second cooldown, a 0.8 second cast time, and a 5.5 second duration. The drone above the field that creates it has a 5 second duration. The extra 0.5 seconds is a lingering effect. If the 150 HP beacon is destroyed, it will still linger but for a shorter duration. Anyone in the field's area of effect that is below 25% of their maximum HP will instantly be brought up to that mark unless they are anti-healed. The drone bounces off walls and ceilings. It will only deploy on the floor. The field and drone both ignore barriers, but will be blocked by terrain and terrain-like objects like Maywall. Placing a tree of life on or hacking the drone will instantly destroy it, and despite having a cast animation, the drone spawns instantly and therefore cannot be cancelled with a hack or a stun. Finally, onto Baptiste's ultimate, Amplification Matrix. This is a buildable 9x5 meter window that boosts all allied damage and healing projectiles passing through it by 100%. This does not actually double the damage, but adds on to it an extra 100%. So a mercy damage boosted shot, for example, would deal 225% of its normal damage through the matrix, as opposed to 250%. Contrary to popular belief, the amplification matrix does not actually provide any damage reduction effects to your team, despite it appearing like a large barrier. The window lasts for 10 seconds, is instantly placed wherever it is targeted up to 35 meters away from Baptiste, and has a brief 0.24 second recovery time before Baptiste himself is able to shoot again. As alluded to before, it does not amplify melee attacks or weapons, including Roadhog's chain hook or Brigitte's whip shot. It will amplify damage over time effects, as long as they pass through the matrix. Ash's dynamite, for example, will be amplified if it is thrown through the matrix before exploding. And that's Baptiste, in as much depth as I believe is useful. Now, just like with my Ana guide, before I talk about how to use your abilities on Bap, I have to mention the most important part of Bap, when to not play him. Unlike the Ana guide though, this section will be quite short, because Baptiste's list of counters is also quite short. He has a ton of very flexible tools that interact very well with most of the characters in the game, so he can actually be run with and against a variety of comps. Bap, unlike Ana, actually fits into two of the three main comp styles quite well, being Poke and Brawl. Now, to avoid explaining exactly what those compositions are for at the moment, I'll just explain them briefly. Brawl comps are designed to get in your face quickly and fight there either quickly or to sustain there until you die. Poke comps are designed to stay far away from you and take control of the map from holding strategic angles rather than just walking over there. Baptiste, with his high AoE burst healing, fits quite well into Brawl comps, since he has both the close range damage and sustain to keep the fight going. He also fits into Poke comps quite well, being that his healing has practically infinite range and his damage is quite potent from a decent distance. The only comp style I would advise you to stay away from with Baptiste is Dive. It can work, in theory, but there are just supports that interact with the playstyle better. Dive comps essentially are aerial brawl comps that pick their targets more carefully. Dive comps use high mobility heroes to simultaneously jump a key target, kill them quickly, and then escape. Baptiste does not have the horizontal mobility to do this, nor does he have consistent enough ranged options to support a dive. His grenades are somewhat slow projectiles, and so is his immortality field, so you would basically need to predict when someone would need healing or an immo field. That just doesn't work very well. As for running him into compositions, he fits pretty well against all the common styles. If you run into a brawl comp, you have the personal survivability and damage output, and vertical mobility to make things happen. With Poke, you have the tools to take positions away from them, or at least challenge them, and the tools to survive the high range damage you'll be taking. Into Dive, Bap has both the personal survivability and tools to keep himself and his other support fighting, which is the hardest part of fighting Dive. There are probably better Poke, Dive, Anti-Poke, and Anti-Dive supports you could be playing, but honestly, Bap is a pretty good fit into every match, if you're confident in your skill. The reason I didn't mention that there was a better Brawl support is because Baptiste is basically the Brawl support. That's what he does best. Now, does he actually want to Brawl himself? No. But he can, and the sheer amount of healing he puts out, along with the added benefits of Ant Matrix and Immortality Field, far outclass the other Brawl support, Moira. So Bap works really well with Reinhardt, since Reinhardt has a big hitbox for him to hit grenades, does lots of damage, and can insta-kill with Fire Strike through Ant Matrix. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a really big combo that more people should coordinate. Fire Strike Ant Matrix is huge. Bap also works well with Zarya and Orisa, but I'd say Reinhardt is still the best for him. Junker Queen is a bit odd, since she really needs a Kiriko, but Bap Kiriko with the double immortality feels a little redundant to me, but that's just optimally speaking. Bap Kiriko services pretty well. You just might rather sub one of them out for a Lucio to speed the tank around. More on supports, Bap doesn't really interact poorly with any of them on his team, there's just certain ones you'd prefer to run him with. In a Poke comp, Bap Zen used to be a staple, and even though it's not anymore, I really think a lot of people sleep on how well they complement each other. Bap can do lots of healing with Zen on his team, letting him build ult faster, and Zen can boost his damage even further, making them a deadly duo. And with Regen Burst and Immortality Field, you can really keep the Zenyatta alive through everything. He also works works well with Mercy and Lucio, since they allow him to deal lots of healing too, and Mercy can amp his damage, or Lucio can help out Bap's best friend Reinhardt. Brig and Lifeweaver work well too, but that to me also feels redundant. If you need a rock solid backline against a variety of high DPS divers though, they're unbeatable. Ana and Bap feel good together, but it's a little hard to make ult charge go around since they both want to do similar things. I would personally stay away from Bap Moira, since they really steal ult charge from each other and they don't synergize that well. Bap Iliari is still new to me, and I haven't played it that much, so I don't really know how it works well, but just from my initial feeling, it's okay. It's not the best, it's not the worst. But now, let's finally talk about how to use those abilities properly. Starting again with the Biotic Launcher, you should always be trying to do as much as possible at all times. Now, don't sacrifice your accuracy completely to spam out more shots, but try to accurately fire as many bullets and grenades as possible. Your damage and healing are easy to flick between since you fire multiple bullets at once and you have grenades, and because of the small 0.144 second delay between firing modes, you barely lose any efficiency if you shoot 2 rounds of bullets and 1 grenade and cycle between them like that. Baptiste is hard to play because he requires high APM, or actions per minute. You need to constantly aim at 2 or more targets and shoot the correct ammunition at them while also deciding when to use your ammo field or regen burst. As for the latter two, I have some easy rules to live by for you. For regen burst, just use it off cooldown whenever someone's low. If you see someone in danger and don't think 1 or 2 grenades will save them, use regen burst. If your tank takes a ton of damage at once, use regen burst. If you're close to dying and being chased, use Regen Burst. It's a rather flexible ability, so you can almost always find a reason to use it, and I would recommend you do. It takes some heat off your other support and allows you to do more damage or reposition briefly. Unlike Ana, you can't always take time to reposition by walking, so that's the benefit of Exo Boots and Regen Burst. As for Immortality Field, you should typically try to save it for ultimates or large abilities. It's basically an ultimate on a cooldown anyway, so you should try and treat it like that. 23 seconds both sounds and feels like an eternity in Overwatch, so you need to use it tactically. That being said though, you shouldn't hold on to it forever. That is a mistake I often make when playing Bap. I personally need to use the lamp more, because it just sitting on cooldown is doing nothing to help the team but intimidate enemies that know you have it, which, albeit a very powerful skill to have sometimes, it is definitely more valuable to use your abilities than hold on to them all game for the perfect moment. Good abilities to use Immo Field for are ones that require the enemies to follow up, or ones that deal damage in one large burst. So, most tank ultimates are countered hard by Immo Field, since they don't do much on their own. Sigma Flux, Ryan Shatter, Zarya Grav, and other immobilizing ultimates are all bad into an Immo Field, especially if you, the Baptiste, are not caught in them. Burst damage ults like Junk Tire and Cassidy High Noon also get countered hard by Immo Field, since they do one big burst of damage that gets mitigated by the field. Also, throwing your Immortality Field around a corner to shield your team or yourself from lots of incoming damage is also incredibly valuable. It can be a great boon to a long-range hit scan trying to take a duel like Widowmaker or Ashe. A classic combo that has existed ever since Baptiste came out is Immo Field plus Regen Burst. The two abilities work amazingly together against big ultimates like Tyre or Grav, since your entire team gets brought down to 25% of their max health by the ultimate, and then the Immortality Field saves them, and then, because they're in critical health, you Regen Burst to bring up their HP by 80 instantly with a little bit of overtime healing. This combo is really intuitive though. I probably don't even need to bring it up at all, it just makes so much sense, but I felt like mentioning it anyway in case someone didn't get the idea. And then finally, Baptiste's ultimate, Amplification Matrix. Amp Matrix is definitely one of the best ultimates in the entire game. You make your entire team do crazy amounts of damage for 10 seconds, and you can use it to get amplified healing too. The best thing to do with Amp Matrix is to just throw it down whenever you have it and see enemies you want to kill. Amp builds really fast if you do lots of damage and healing, which you will, so you can use it almost every other fight. It's very useful to kill even just one target. Even if you get no one, you're still shutting down a sightline for 10 whole seconds, which can give your team a chance to regroup. It's a very good ultimate. There are some good combos you can make with it. High Noon and Tac Visor are the two that come to mind immediately, since they both auto-lock onto targets and do tons of damage with the Matrix. Overclock can work well too if your Sojourn is good, but honestly, I would suggest just throwing down the Matrix whenever you see fit. It's way better that way, since your team generates extra ult charge from the increased damage and healing, so you both contribute to winning this team fight and the next one. And now some general tips. First, always jump. This is a topic that is highly debated among BAP players, but I'm sticking to my guns. Jumping with Exo Boots makes you really hard to hit for most characters. If they have a Hanzo, Widowmaker, or an Ashe, I would recommend you watch your jumping and stay behind cover. But if they don't, jump to your heart's content. Also, try to move positions a lot. You have a square hitbox, and you're pretty easy to hit for the most part, so try to change up where you're playing from often to not let enemies get a good angle or a good dive on you. Stick to high ground, but close high ground. Don't play from where a Widowmaker might, but try to stay on high ground to get the best value out of your grenades and primary fire. Try to play within regen burst distance of your team as well, so that you always have that option in your back pocket. Playing within regen burst distance also improves your ability to react and aim with Immortality Field, since it is a relatively slow moving projectile when you throw it out. And that's all I've got for you today. Hopefully this little guide helps at least one person out there. It seems like people generally like the Ana guide. It is, as of time of recording, my most viewed video, at only 32 views, but we take what we can get. So thank you all for that. And hopefully you enjoy this one even more, now that my audio quality has hopefully improved. I got a new microphone, so that's nice. Anyway, I've gone on for long enough, so I fear it's time to say goodbye.